Senior Secondary Education and Statistics Sierra Leone has commenced a 3-day validation workshop, Education Analysis for Global Learning and Equity, a global initiative in providing systematic in-depth data analysis that supports government for evidence-based policy, planning, monitoring, and advocacy. President Julius Madabiu launches the Ahmed Tijan Kaba Foundation for Peace and Democracy. These stories and more coming up shortly. With me in the studio today is the Communication Specialist, Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education, Ibrahim Sharif. He will be talking to me on the importance of the workshop, including aspects in the free quality education, the National School Census, and School Feeding Project. Good morning, Ibrahim, and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
All right. Also with me is Thomas Mokonte, Executive Director, Citizens Advocacy Network. He will be talking to me on their position with ensuing development in Port Local over the weekend with the former Vice President, Alhaji Chief Samuel Samsumane, among other issues. Good morning, Thomas, and welcome to the program.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
All right, I shall be back with you shortly. First, let's take a message from our sponsors.
Give me money.
What money?
Give me
Okay, I'm
money.
not saying open up. What are you
Can't give me money. Ah, what's kind of bad shit this? What's enough for putting money again? You can't pay, can't take her. Why you for the shaft me bad self? Auntie Jojo.
How you doing?
Ah, Chago, thank you. I don't come on a bank. What you make you face this one?
That's all that man. Hey, Gappy can't take me money, don't go. But why don't tell her say they can't give me money if it's a joke?
Hey, Auntie Jo. All the way me can at this society meet. If man take you money loss. You know don't hear about financial inclusion. Where local commercial bank they make everybody, no matter how you turn, no matter the kind of business where they do.
Financial rating.
Inclusion.
That enough for all man.
Any item, you not cripple in the bank. You not cripple for bank. Because not for the today, for we tomorrow one. And now they don't make it easy for we. They don't open in different way. Then we go make you back not go feel bad about your banking system at all. Then get keke account.
You look one confused me small. Then keke rider there. Wait, say that they open accounts for them. Wait. Where they want to ride bike? Then to man they don't more lanky driver they all.
Yes.
They only open accounts for them.
Yes. Sometimes you want buy keke, you go and ride for party forever. You dey go put that small thing. Come up a keke account. They get the other account so they call Comra account. That for we then Comra them.
For we?
Yes. We then Comra them. So tell you picky don't put on school. That knows give they help we let my people go. When reach now for go college, you not get money. Yeah. But that account will be the open for I can just go and take you pay school fee.
When they talk about this Comra business, the Comra account where they go open. Well, you were not born now.
You dey still open accounts. Comra account, then you back that mandate where you open them. Where you born to the pikin they can run back through that account day. So they don't make as and now they don't open branch now bonds. Imagine how far did they go now. Therefore make things easy for me and you too.
A better way can tell me, oh, hey, Sergeant Tenki, that me sister, the way we in picking the thief money, the way they destroy that one day. And they go mad, they go tell her.
Local commercial bank, I made them make it easy. They say tell you paddy, may go tell him paddy.
And they go tell her.
What you tell you so go you explain her. Life is easy.
Commercial bank, bank with token. Commercial bank, number one. Bank with token.
11 minutes gone past 9 is the time from our studio clock, and this is the Star Good Morning Show live here on Star TV channel 21. Well, before I come to my studio guest, let's have our first news item for today. Now, the government of Sierra Leone, with technical assistance from UNICEF, Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education and Statistics Sierra Leone, has commenced a 3-day validation workshop, Education Analysis for Global Learning and Equity, Mykesego. Now, this is a global initiative in providing systematic in-depth data analysis that supports government for evidence-based policy, planning, monitoring, and advocacy. Let's have more in this report.
Speaking on the importance of the workshop, the communications specialist, Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education, Ibrahim Sherif, noted that Sierra Leone is one of the first countries that implemented Mykesego using the most recent household survey datasets. The initiative focuses on equity issues in education, such as gender, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, child labor, and subnational geographical areas.
Stakeholders together, education and stakeholders. We talk about statistics, Sierra Leone way, Salon people they know saying, and then they count win at this country, then we get paramount chiefs, then we then get authority over the localities, then we get district council people, then we get plenty other stakeholders that they all don't come together for first of all look at the data we make Mykesego don't provide, way the Mykesego data where they don't collect over the years. For let we come discuss and waiting at some of them findings, waiting they don't find out, and for let we see if we agree with their findings or we disagree with their findings. Waiting at some of the barriers that we don't see, waiting at some of the other critical issues that we will discuss. So at the end of the day, we're going to incorporate all of this information inside one package where they will use as a country report.
The Mykesego analysis is carried out with the government's leadership and technical assistance from UNICEF's regional office, with a view that the initiative should be understood as a complementary study, as the education sector requires wider data, such as teachers, learning and public finance, using recently available Mykesego data to contribute to increasing the capacity of ministry and partners to monitor education development of the country for better results.
One for no, waiting they make way beginning at Sierra Leone, not able for go school. And if they go school, waiting they make way, then they drop out of school. And waiting at some of the gender disparities, the way they make way, the education way we're supposed for give beginning, we're not able for give them the way. When I don't say this government here in priority, number one, for make sure say we don't develop the human capacity of the country. And by doing that, there is a focus on education.
Ibrahim Sherif, Communications Specialist, Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education, highlighted some of the objectives of the project, including the review Mykesego education data in the context of equity and discussed the implication for further analysis policy and programs, whilst identifying the needs and prepare a list for additional analysis.
The national school census is very important also because from the national school census we're able to know a lot of information we go help the ministry and the government for plan well on how they therefore unfold the other phases.
The expected outcome of the 3-day validation workshop will increase participants' awareness and capacity in data monitoring and application. Compiled by Abdurrahman Kamar, Sienna Rights reporting in Freetown.
Many thanks to Sienna Rights for compiling that report. And to discuss more on that story, I have with me the communications specialist, like I earlier said, Ibrahim Sherif here with me in the studio. Welcome again, Ibrahim.
Thank you very much.
Now, first, let's get a background of this whole Mykesego initiative. How did it come about?
Well, actually, we call it Mykesego,
Mykesego.
right? I understand that
right.
MICS always people will say mix.
Okay.
Mykesego. Mykesego is a UNICEF program. It is education analysis for learning and equity. It is a worldwide, a global program that is primarily charged with the responsibility of providing critical data to governments, to support them in decision making, in policy planning, in monitoring and advocacy. And so in our situation here in Sierra Leone, what they decided to do in partnership with the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education and of course with other stakeholders, they have been working in the past, especially the past year. They have collected very critical data about education in this country. And so they have brought that report to us as stakeholders in education, stakeholders from across the country, talking about even local councils, district councils, city councils, paramount chiefs, statistics Sierra Leone, and a lot of other stakeholders, for us to come together and look at the report and see if we agree with the report or not. If we decide that we do not agree with the report, we give reasons why we do not agree with the report. If we agree with the report, we give reasons. And we make inputs as well. We add things that we think are relevant to be added, and we take away things that we think are not right. And so on the first day of the workshop, that was exactly what the focus was. And so at the end of the 3 days, the final focus would be, or the objective would be, for us to come up with all of those ideas, and for Mykesego to be able to put together a country report which they will submit to government, and for government to use that to make informed decisions about education. So it is more or less some of the things that are included in there, gathering data about about our children who are supposed to go to school, or who are in school, who have dropped out of school, the girl children. What are some of the socio-economic impact of their standard of living on the how does the social impact, the socio-economic impact of our society impact those children? What are some of the things that we are supposed to do to make things better? So definitely that is what we intend to discuss. We started yesterday, Monday, and it's going to end on Wednesday.
This whole initiative, what is it seeking to achieve? What are its key objectives?
Well, the key objectives, like I've said, it's for us, we have reached a point in this modern era where we think that data is very important. We cannot just continue to do the same thing and expect a change. There comes a time when you think that you have to study situations and see what is going wrong, what is going right, and for you to be able to put modalities in place to work to make things go right. So the objective of this workshop is actually for us to analyze this data that is a data we call the Mykesego data, which Mykesego collected from the past year. And so we are now looking at this data for us to be able to really know what are some of the things that we have implemented as far as education is concerned that are working, and what are those things that are not working, and what are the reasons why they are not working, and what do we need to do to get things better. So, like for instance, what are the reasons responsible for early marriages in this country? Are they cultural factors? Are they socio-economic factors? What are the impacts of child labor? Why are people sending their children to do some of this work that we consider as child labor? So we want to understand all of these situations so that at the end of the day we'll be informed when we are making decisions with regards to education in this country. So at the end of the day, that's why the stakeholders have been involved, in order for us, because we were born here, we were raised here, we understand the issues better, and so we are involved in this whole process. So at the end of the day, whatever we suggest to either add or subtract from the data that we have in front of us now will be used. We
so
come
talking
together.
About this data, would you mind to share some of its details with us?
Well, like I'm saying, those are some of the details. Like for instance, we want to know at what age children even start school in this country. Now, what are, like people who have been fortunate to go to school, how do they view education? Like, what is the impact of children going to preschool on their education? Is it necessary for government to pay attention to preschooling, like children at the age of 3? Is it necessary for them to start school at that age, or is it not necessary? These are some of the details. Like, why are people in the villages or in rural communities asking their girl children to get married? Is it important? Is education helping to change that narrative, to change that cultural perspective? Is education playing any role for to change that perspective in the country? And how about the boys? Are they, what is responsible for boys getting into child labor? Are they dropping out of school? Are they continuing, with their education? This kind of information. So all of this is collected, have been collected, and so what we are doing now is to look at it and see from our own understanding of our country and the situations here, for us to look at that data and agree with it or disagree, and what are the reasons we will advance to support wherever we stand on that issue.
So, would you say that this Mykesego initiative will have a significant impact on the education sector?
Well, it is not completed yet. It is still
I'm
in the
just
process.
saying, if it
Well, it
will.
is possible, yes, because the data that we are gathering or the data that we will get from the final report that will be sent to government will actually inform us a lot about what are the realistic things that are happening in our country with regards to how we can, cater to our children with regards to education. So we are expecting a positive, we are very optimistic that this is going to lead to a very positive outcome, and it's going to help government to plan even in a better way for education. Yes, we expect that.
Okay, quickly before I come to my other studio guests, now you just held the Mykesego workshop. What is the whole rationale for the workshop? And who are the targeted participants?
They are stakeholders, educational stakeholders. Like we said, this is being done in partnership with the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education. Of course, Statistics Sierra Leone is responsible for conducting national population and housing census. So some a part of this data that we are talking about, definitely we want Statistics Sierra Leone to participate in this. And of course, paramount chiefs who have direct control and authority over chiefdoms. We have district councils, we have city councils, we have other stakeholders. These are the people coming together. Like even there is a representation from the Teaching Service Commission, representation from other parastatals coming together to look at this report. And the objective again, or the essence of this report, the workshop, is actually for us to, there is a data that has been presented to us. And this is coming from UNICEF in partnership with the ministry. They have presented this data to us. They are saying this is what we have been able to gather so far with regards to, educational data.
What are some of the findings in that report?
Well, we are just going over this again. One, we have received data about how many girl children are going to school in this country, how many are dropping out of school because of early marriages, how many children are being impacted by child labor, how many are not impacted by child labor. For those mothers who go to school up to senior secondary school level, how do they view the importance of education on children generally? Do they view that it is better for children to start school at the age of 3, that is preschool? This kind of information. Even talking about why private schools, students in private schools performing better than students in government and government-assisted schools. So this kind of information, what can the government or government-assisted schools do to outperform private schools? How can we turn around those things? So we are looking at all of this. Is the data that is presented in front to stakeholders, and this is what we are looking at. So now it is left with us as citizens to either agree or disagree with this data. And if we disagree, what are the reasons we will advance for disagreeing with that data? If we agree, what are the reasons we can give for agreeing with that data? So basically, this is what the entire 3 days is going to be about. It's a very voluminous report, and so we are taking it bit by bit. Like for yesterday, what they did was to focus on early childhood education, focus on the number of schools available in the country to cater to the needs of early childhood education, and also we talk about child labor. So these are, today is something different, but this is what the report is for now. It's a framework. It is not a final report yet, because only after this workshop that UNICEF now, in consultation with the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education, will come together to issue a final country report.
All right, continue to stay with Ms. Ibrahim Sherif, Communication Specialist, Ministry of Senior and Basic Education. Now let's turn to another issue on ensuing development in local district. over the weekend, in which there were allegations that the ex-vice president Samuel Samsumana was being attacked there. Well, to discuss more on that issue is the executive director of Citizens Advocacy Network, Thomas Mokonte. Good morning again, Thomas.
Good morning.
Before we talk about the local issue, probably someone out there might want to know what your organization is actually doing.
Yeah, well, Citizens Advocacy Network has been one of the leading advocates for the respect of the ideals of human rights, rule of law, and democratic good governance in our body politic. And this is a practice we have actually carried out with dignity and pride over the period we have been in existence. And the issue under review is an issue that falls within the purview of democratic good governance, rule of law, and human rights. And that is why I'm here today. So at least give my own view on the issue.
Now we see allegations, counter allegations, the C4C saying their leader was attacked, the police saying no, we did not attack him, we only cautioned him, we wanted to protect him. What's your take on the whole issue?
You see, this we face challenging times. We have a very fragile state. Our democracy is very fragile. And yet again, the Sierra Leone police is on the radar for all the wrong reasons. I have been one person who has always been very critical about the operations of the Sierra Leone police, because I hold the view that a state as fragile as ours deserves a Sierra Leone a police force that is professional, that is responsive to the wishes and aspirations of the people of this country, and that is apolitical. But to be honest with you, incidents that have come up have actually given us enough reasons to believe that the Sierra Leone police is in dire need of help, to believe that the Sierra Leone police is in a crisis, is in a professional crisis. Week in, week out, we have challenges with this institution. The Sierra Leone police is supposed to be an institution that protects lives and property and uphold the rule of law in this country. But what has come out very clearly is the fact that regime after regime, the Sierra Leone police has not been able to resist the urge of playing on the lap of the powers that be. And when once there is that situation, it makes it worrisome. And that is where people like us will come in and call things by their rightful names. Now, to the issue proper. Former Vice President Samsumana is a citizen of this country who deserves the right to freedom of movement as provided for in our constitution and a host of other statutory instruments and conventions that Sierra Leone is signatory to. This man traveled out of Sierra Leone and was on his way back to Sierra Leone. And his political party supporters galvanized themselves to welcome him, as could be done with any other person, celebrities, politicians, President Bio. We always see him go out. When he comes, almost all ministers travel to Lunge to receive him. We have not received any situation wherein he was denied access to any of the roads in this country. It is appalling, it is disgraceful, an embarrassment to not only the Sierra Leone police, but to all.
Sorry to cut you, the press release from the police quoting a Public Order Act saying Alhaji Chief, the former Vice President Samsumana, wanted to do two events, attend a football match, and to address his party supporters, of which he never took clearance from the police.
You see, that is the most disgraceful justification they could give for the act that actually perpetrated. There is nowhere in our constitution or in the Public Order Act. I challenge the Sierra Leone police to come out with any provision in this document that actually tell them that when somebody wants to attend a football match, you should take permission from the police. Or when you want to actually use a particular route, you should take you take permission from the Sierra Leone police. What they did was a calculated and a conscious ploy to undermine the freedom of movement of a very senior citizen of this country. Any Sierra Leonean gets right for attend football match when and how he wants, for God's sake. That are the most lame and disgraceful excuse any police force will give in the world. That this man was going to watch a football match, and because he did not take permission and the situation was rowdy,
well,
we decided
according
to stop
the
him.
police that some anti-CPOC supporters wanted to hijack the whole event.
This has always been the pattern of our police force. When they went to Mile 91 and killed a young man there, occasioned human rights abuses, stole properties of people, cash crops, monies, carted away with them. When we went to their offices, interrogated them, what they said was the people were shooting at them. People had guns. They were shooting at them. They were overpowering them. A police force of over 100 people went to a very small village of predominantly farmers, invaded that village at the early hours of 5, attacked the people, and eventually killed a young man there. Their excuse was very lame. They always have excuses for the wrong things they do. When they came to the APC party office here quite recently, they occasioned a lot of human rights abuses there, unwarranted human rights abuses. Their excuse here was the people were violent and they were overpowering them. That was why they went into the offices of the APC, shot tear gas canisters, entered into stores of poor women who were doing their businesses, that cookie seller. An old woman who could not even walk properly was beaten and was bleeding from head to toe. We saw the footages. It was all over. Embarrassing for a nation like this. The same Sierra Leone police force. This is the same Sierra Leone police force that will not give people permission when they want to process peacefully. This is the same Sierra Leone police force that is asking people to seek permission for possession, when in actual fact they know that they will not give it to you. We are not in a police state, for God's sake. It is embarrassing, and some of us feel bitter about some of these issues.
The former vice president is also an elderly statesman and is very popular in Kono. And so one might want to wonder why the issue is it becoming a threat in Mentry local district, becoming popular in local district? Why do you think is the issue?
You see, it's all about politics. Chief Samsumana has been a subject of attack. He has actually suffered a lot. He has actually suffered a lot as a politician in the hands of the past government and in this current government. His security detail was withdrawn from him simply because he went to visit President Kuma, his former boss, by this government. This man has been ostracized. His benefits have not been provided to him by this government, even though President Bio in his manifesto expressly stated it, that he is going to provide the benefits of former vice president. He is going to respect the decision of the ECOWAS court. He made that statement even in parliament. But as we speak, that has not been done, simply because he went to visit his former boss, President Kuma. This is a man whose popularity is growing like a wildfire in the Hamatan, like any other politician who has actually been able to carry himself well. This is something I can actually tell you. Now, what a government like this should do, or what the powers that be should do, is to embrace the opposition. Embrace those with ideas. Embrace them and try to have dialogue with them. Instead of having a state wherein we will continuously be in rancor. Sierra Leone quite recently has been ranked in a very poor position in the peace index, global peace index. We dropped 18 steps downwards. All of these issues coming up, all of these challenges, the squabbles, police brutality, with this country is becoming a police state, have not gone unnoticed by the international community. And these are the issues, these are the factors that they really look at when they make rankings. If we actually dropped to that level, a student who goes to school, who was coming, let's say, fifth position, dropped to 28th position, that student needs to actually sit behind closed doors and revisit his activities. And that is what Sierra Leone should do. And that is what the leadership of this country should do. Instead of engaging in attacks, politics, there is a tense atmosphere.
But
People
this
not feel
political
safe.
tension in the country, what do you think is the main cause for all this?
Leadership. There is a serious problem of leadership. I believe that everything rises and falls on leadership. When President Mandela of blessed memory took over South Africa, and we all know the history, right? Then maybe some of us we are very young, but South Africa, there is no African country that was divided than South Africa. I stand to be corrected. South Africa had one of the most gruesome challenges of civil war, apartheid, where people were killed, thousands of people were killed. There was a serious division in that country. When Mandela took over, he provided leadership. He did not take over government to vilify people, start attacking people, suppressing people who actually locked him up in prison for 27 years. His life was spent in prison for 27 years. But when he took over office, he said, this is a nation that we must actually push to forge ahead. We could actually do better by coming together. What he did was to bring strategies that will unify people. Football matches, dialogues, meetings, series of meetings with blacks and whites. He was able to bridge the gap. And today, he is a world-celebrated leader. We lack that in Sierra Leone currently. What we see is a leadership that is so partisan, a leadership that has not been able to rise above this political sentiment and what have you, to provide that leadership role, to provide that fatherly role to all and sundry, wherein every Sierra Leonean will feel equal. People will not lose their jobs because they do not support you in elections. People should not be ostracized because they do not speak in your favor. Open the space for all and sundry to feel equal before the law. The judiciary should also be a place where people should run for succor when they are in disadvantaged positions. But when you have a state that has all of the challenges, a judiciary that is playing on the lap of the executive, you have a police force that is very unprofessional, what you have is a state that will be in constant rancor. Because when people are not sure of going to the court and secure justice, and that their right will be assured and every day, you now give them the fiat to take the law into their hands. When the Sierra Leone police force works under the whims and caprices of the executive, then you have few people at the back scenes for self-aggrandizement will be using the Sierra Leone police force to undermine dissenting views, to undermine opposition, and that does not in any way send a good message about a democratic state. And let me send this message. This government and all other governments that have come after President Kaba, we are voted into office through the ballot and not through the barrel. Never in the history of this country will we sit. Some of us will never sit and allow this country to regress to the dark days when people had to go to the bushes and cause havoc on Sierra Leoneans that never asked for it. After the war, people in the international community asked that where were the good men and women in Sierra Leone? Where were they? And they stood by and did nothing to actually salvage the situation. They never spoke truth to power. They were never able to come out and speak boldly on the issues that affected this country. Hence, this country degenerated into chaos.
Okay.
And we don't want that to happen.
Okay, let me hold you there. Is Thomas Mokonte, Executive Director, Citizens Advocacy Network. Quickly before we go to another news item, let's turn back to education. As I have with me the communication specialist from Ministry of Senior and Basic Education, Ibrahim Sherif. Now, Ibrahim, we see Sierra Leone's successful transition to digital school census, and if I'm correct, it's the whole process took place over a period of 10 weeks. Am I right?
Yeah, it is still going on.
It's still going on.
So right.
How is it going, and what's the
Well,
update
definitely, just like we were talking about Mykesego, the National School Census is also a data gathering exercise. Formerly, we use paper-based to gather data of this nature to do a head count of students, to count schools, teachers who are trained and qualified, those who are not trained and who are not qualified, the infrastructure, and all of the other amenities in school. We use paper based. And so we found out that the data we gathered at that point was not very accurate, and it was misleading, and so it was not helping the Ministry of Education to make good decisions, at best, right? And so we think that with the incorporation of technology, where now we are using mobile devices like smartphones, tablets, to actually collect input data that we, in real time, will be transferred directly to the Education Management Information System, which we call EMIS. It is an effort that will help us to clean data, to reduce or minimize errors and mistakes, and for us to be in a position to make good decisions when it comes to education. So what we did at this point is that, and one of the things that, before I go to that, I want to register here is that we have a very proactive minister in the basic and in the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education, in the person of Honorable Alpha Timbo. He is very receptive to technology. He is receptive to data and data management. And as we know him, he's somebody who is result prone. Wherever he is, he wants to make impact, positive impact. And so he has created a platform that makes it possible for the ministry to embrace technology and data management as a key component of the several phases of implementation of the free quality school education. So what we are doing now at this point is actually, with regards to the National School Census, we are using technology to be able to capture this data. But first, we provided questionnaires to heads of schools, head teachers, principals, to answer those, provide answers on those questionnaires. And now our own people have gone out there, enumerators and data management staff. They are out there to actually verify that information and input that information into the system. And so, with that information handy, the minister can be sitting in his office, and by just a stroke of a key on the keyboard, he should be able to see a lot of information. And of course, we also have the Department of the DSTI, I want to call it, the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation, which is headed by Dr. Devishenge, working with us now and other partners for us to be able to harmonize education data. Because it's very important. We have the Mykesego, we have the State House database, we have education database, we have different databases coming from everywhere. We want to make sure we harmonize all of this data in one place, so that at the end of the day, when I go anywhere, when I'm speaking about numbers or statistics, whatever I'm saying is what somebody else is saying, at another location. So this is the main underlying reason for doing this national school census using technology, and that is what's going on.
This whole exercise, the national school census, what is the financial implication? How much does the whole exercise cost?
Well, I am not in any position to be able to call figures, but I can say that whatever is spent to undertake this activity is worth it, because at the end of the day, we are eliminating mistakes of the past, we are eliminating errors of the past, and we are moving into the modern era. I mean, just think about SALCAB, telling us that they now will be able to install internet service in 500 schools as a start in this country. Now, when advanced countries created these platforms like the internet, computer technology, those technologies have helped them to eliminate a lot of problems, and have also helped those countries to make serious advancement. So it is but proper that as a country we should embrace this as well. So sometimes it is not even the money that is spent on what we are doing, but it is the outcome of what we are doing now. What are the fundamental reasons for doing what we are doing, and what are the expectations, what are the outcomes, what are the benefits on the nation as a whole. It's just like when I'm talking to people about the free quality school education, I tell them you don't see the benefits of the free quality school education right now. But down the line, if you support this as a nation, this is not one of those things that anybody is supposed to politicize, because we have seen countries where they have prioritized education and they have transformed their country to where they are now. So this is one thing that all citizens are supposed to support, because down the line, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years from now, you will begin to see the impact of this free quality education on the nation as a whole.
So the whole data, is it useful for analysis?
Definitely it is. In fact, we are collecting this data to help us analyze and then make decisions, because you have to look at the data, make analysis, see how many children in each district are passing examinations, how many schools have toilets, how many schools have water resources, how many schools have the adequate infrastructure to house the children. I mean, remember, when the free quality school education was launched, suddenly there was a surge in enrollment of pupils, and then there was inadequate infrastructure to house all of them. So the National School Census will help us to understand some of these difficulties, and for us to be able to analyze that data and make informed decision that will positively impact the country as a whole.
Okay. Now, all of this we considering the state of the rule of law and democracy in a country. What's your own assessments, your take on rule of law and democracy in a country?
Yeah, we still face challenges, as I said earlier. And that is why we expect all facets of society, all organs, all institutions, all bodies to do their bits. The journalists should do their bits in a professional fashion. The police should do their job in a professional fashion. The judiciary should be able to serve as a watchdog, should be able to maintain the scale in a very balanced fashion, and it should not be dangling from one dispensation to the other. When APC is in power, all APC cases they pass. APC they always win cases. APC they always get away. When SLP kind of power, all SLP cases they pass. SLP they get away. They misuse the God. This is unfortunate. We expect all sectors of society to be upright, to be decent, to carry themselves with dignity and pride in what they do. When once you have that, and you have a state that will be running in a proper footing. But when there is a breakdown of morality, when there is a breakdown of professionalism in the body politic of our nation and in the professional world, then there is a challenge. And that is why we still face challenges. We have a serious challenge with the economy of this country. There are the tangible factors and the intangible factors. The tangible factors are those factors that you see. We not have most of these businesses running. You see them. We will not get Boku things. They will not get export. They happen. All of you. But the intangible factors are these things that we continue to do that undermine the confidence of the international community, that undermine credible investors, people with foresight, people with intelligence, who have made honest monies to come to a country like this and invest. The Global Peace Index is a very big scar on this nation's progress. This nation, all its people, must put hands on deck to promote the cause of developing this country. And the leadership has got a very key role to play. His Excellency President Bio and his government must be able to divest themselves of interest in these institutions, the police, judiciary, parliament, and what have you. Let them allow people to do their work professionally, because it is only when that is done then we will have a state that is free for all. Today, APC is crying foul about the judiciary. APC is crying foul about the Sierra Leone police. But less than 2 years ago, APC was very comfortable with all of these institutions. SLPP will be out of governance SLPP will not be in governance forever. What will they want to be written down in history for them? what will they want, will they want to be treated by the people of this country? And that is why some of us are here to speak out. Because we don't want this vicious cycle to go on. And the Sierra Leone police, as I said earlier, and the judiciary need serious reforms. I believe one challenge that they face is the appointment of the leadership of these institutions. When you have a judiciary, when you have a judge, Chief Justice, that works at the behest of the president, who received his appointment through State House, through His Excellency the President, naturally, past God intervene. That kind of person they go always run for support, promote, and protect the interest of his boss. Because at the end of the day, the buck stops with him. Same could be said for the Inspector General of Police. He has not been able to carry himself as that kind of professional police that Kit Bidu actually envisioned when the Sierra Leone police was reformed after the war. After the war, two major institutions came out very glaringly as the major factors for the war, the civil conflict in this nation. The Sierra Leone police and the judiciary. Very important institutions in the country. When you get a police force, you get the guns, you get the tankers, you get all of you. All what you think about, we get tendency for kill mortar man. Not professional. They continue for do things where they market terror in the heart and minds of citizens and the international community. It makes the state volatile. It makes people, at the end of the day, let me say this, we are going towards a point. I hear some people saying, Salon peaceful. Everybody go and definitely talk, say, this country not peaceful. Yes. We have what we call positive peace and negative peace. There are factors, there are triggers of conflict. And no right thinking man, any man who in Census and complete in this country, no go see talk say, already they see they happen so. Not to triggers of conflict, not to triggers of rancor and disturbance in this country. So until and unless we are able to appreciate the fact that this country needs positive peace and not negative peace. Negative peace, where you see there is no fighting, but there are a lot of challenges around. My ending note is the Sierra Leone police should be professional enough. I have had a lot of people ask for the resignation of the Inspector General of Police. Including the C4C. Including the C4C. I respect their view. But over and above asking for his resignation, let us sit for a while and ask ourselves this rhetorical question. Why is it that Inspector General after Inspector General, we've continued to face these challenges? People continue to be used in that office. Let us seek reforms for the appointment of people into that office. There should be a properly constituted board or a committee or a body that will be responsible for screening, grilling, and eventually appointing people into the office of the Inspector General of Police. Because only when people have these offices through such bureaucracies, then they will know that they are not working at the behest of a single individual, but they are answerable to the people of this country, and they should be professional in what they do.
Thank you so very much. It's Thomas Mokonte, Executive Director, Citizens Advocacy Network. We've been discussing on an event in local districts involving the ex-former Vice President and the police, in which there are allegations and counter-allegations. Thank you so much for being part of the Good Morning Show today.
Thank you.
Now, quickly, let me round up with Ibrahim Sherif as we go back to education. Quickly, let's round up with the school feeding program. Has there been any changes? What are the updates on that?
Well, since the launch of the free quality school education in this country, one of the components of that program was for us to come up with ways for us to feed our children when they go to school. Because some of us, when we were growing up, we benefited a little bit from that before it actually ceased. We understand that when children even think about the fact that they are going to have some food in school, they are motivated, they are inspired. So it was a good thing that the president decided to add to the free quality school education. So, but, you know, it is one thing to say this, and then it is another thing to plan it well. So what has been going on has been planning as to how to unfold this particular program. Number one, we have to think about the food that we are giving the children, the quantum of it that they will eat, what are the nutrients of the food, thinking about the health implications, We now know that there is this outbreak of diabetes, obesity. So we are thinking about all of this. So that is why, in fact, the focus of the school feeding is more or less on homegrown foods, the food that we grow up here.
So, is it covering all schools across the country?
Well, yes, it is going to cover all of the, the primary schools. It is not going to be in secondary school for now. It is going to be primary school because that is where the children are actually vulnerable, and we want to make sure that they are inspired and motivated. And so the necessary staff, the critical staff that will run that program have been employed, including food monitors, the director, the technical staff, all of those have been employed. And of course, we have school feeding going on in some districts in this country, pioneered by international non-governmental organizations like the CRS, the JAM, World Food Program. They are already doing it. So quite recently, about 2 weeks ago, we went to all of their locations, and for us to actually pilot to see how they are doing it. How they are feeding the children. What are some of the the critical ingredients they are using, and so we have been able to gather that information. So now the school feeding program, the secretariat is actually working now on modalities to start the program itself, and hopefully we are thinking by next academic year, children should start eating in school.
Okay, so what should be your ending notes? And what after the Mykesego workshop? What next?
Well, we are expecting a country report from UNICEF that will include all of the inputs of the stakeholders who are participating in this workshop, and that country report will be presented to government, and government will use it to make informed decision. But I would like to end on this note that Sierra Leone has come so far that our country has gone through quite a lot, and one of the best things that have happened to our country is for us to have a president who prioritizes education. Education is key to everything, to success. Education is key to transforming the economy. Education is key to developing the human capacity of the citizens. So education is very important. There is a country in Europe called Finland. Finland was one of the poorest countries in Europe. They were able to transform their country and make it become one of the richest countries in Europe because they prioritize education. All of the least educated teacher in Finland has a master's degree, and every classroom has 3 teachers. One teacher stands on the blackboard to teach, the other teacher keeps the students in focus, and then the other teacher helps the struggling students to catch up with their work. And so with that, over 20-25 years, they have been able to transform their country. So anybody who politicizes this free quality school education is somebody who truly does not love this country. This is one of those programs that everybody should support in our individual ways. And so it is important. And so I'm just encouraging all of us as citizens, whether you are an engineer, you are a teacher, you are a carpenter, you are a parent, we all of us have to put our hands on deck to ensure that the president's flagship program succeeds. So that's all I can say right now.
Thank you very much. Is Ibrahim Sherif, communication specialist, Ministry of Education. Well, that's how we end the show for today. Thank you so very much for watching. I am Leonora Jawara, leaving you with our inspirational quotes, which comes from Helen Keller. She says, "Optimism is the faith that leads to achievement." Until tomorrow, have yourself a wonderful day.